In the preseason of the 2023 AFL season, if you listen to Joey Montagna on Triple M, Fox Footy, or anything else that he was doing at the time, he was bringing the statistic forward that teams that get smacked in grand finals do not win finals in the next year. Now, on paper for the Swans, they look like the team that would be bucking that trend. They were young, they were hot, they were ready to go and rebound after getting absolutely smacked by the Cats. Now, after a really soft opening fortnight of Gold Coast and Hawthorn, it has now turned into, frankly, quite the shit show. They now sit at 3-4. Outside of the top 8, and although their percentage is better than Port Adelaide, who are in the 8 right now and were the subject of my last video, check it out if you want to after this one is finished, of course, the Swans right now are in a pickle. So let's talk about everything that is gone wrong for the Swans, going wrong for the Swans. Is it fixable? How could it be fixable? And everything in between. But right now, the title speaks for itself. WTF is wrong with the Sydney Swans. Let's go. So as per usual in these videos, I normally bring what teams are good and what they're bad at, and I'm going to do that in this video as well, but I just want to reiterate, and some of you in my comment sections when I have brought up Sydney in the last 6 weeks have been 100% right on this, but so by no means, I should say, am I going, no one saw this coming. Plenty of you did. I take my hat off to you, not currently wearing one, but a tip of the cap to you. I was a Sydney believer. I'm not sure if that belief is totally out the window yet, but there have been plenty of people who are more right about the Swans in the opening 2 months than me. So I perfectly acknowledge that. But what is going on with the Swans at the moment is that opening fortnight has distorted everything. Gold Coast didn't offer anything and Hawthorn offered less. Even if inaccurate goal kicking is nowhere near an excuse, the Hawks didn't play the SCG well at all, and the Swannies had won their first 8 quarters. And as you can see, the Swans are 15-13 for quarters 1 in the competition this year. Pretty good. Not great by any stretch, but you know, it's not that bad. Take away that opening fortnight, give us the last 5 weeks, and they're sitting at 7-13. That's a disaster for a team with a young midfield and a team that has the best forward of the 21st century. Now, we're going to talk about Bud and why he's in the thumbnail in just a tick, but if Sydney were the great, the fantastic team of last year and get all the plaudits, so they should, they also need to cop the criticism, because right now, the Swans, for everything that they're doing well, and I'll show you what they're doing well in a minute, they are doing key fundamental parts of football games terribly. Check this out. Look at that. I'd love to be able to go one stat, look at that, one stat, look at that. But their stoppage clearances, their contested ball, which is what contests is, by the way. I just ran out of room on the graphic. Uncontested ball. Kicking efficiency. Nick Blakey, one of the best kicks in the comp, apparently. Chad Warner, look, isn't the greatest kick in the league, and he wasn't last year. But this guy was pulling off unbelievable feats by foot last year. Errol Goulden, amazing by foot. Or are they? Doesn't look like it, does it? It's unbelievable from the Swans that right now, key aspects of what made them a good team last year are simply not happening this year. They are scoring and scoring really well. They are a top 8 side for points scored. Great start. Now, they are injured down back. I am going to touch on this. Injuries aren't an excuse. They are a reason for the fact the Swans are a top 6 team in conceding scores, and that's top 6 worst, by the way. Yes, they've missed the McCartan brothers and Dane Rampy for a long time. Not taking anything away from that as well. In fact, their medical room right now, as you can see with the names on the list, most of those guys are key outs for the Swans, and there are guys not listed there that have missed footy that are due to come back. So I'm not taking anything away from the Swans defensively. Having Callum Mills on Tom Hawkins at GMHBA Stadium, that's not great. But at the moment, at the contest, the Swans don't have that many midfield injuries. At the contest and forward of the ball, yes, Joel Amani's been out, but that midfield are not injured. Sorry, they're just not. And if you go, such and such has missed 1 or 2 games, or such and such has missed 2 or 3 games, right now, at their bounce, at an opening bounce, they have got Luke Parker, Callum Mills, Chad Warner, Errol Gordon, Justin McInerney, and James Rowbottom available to them. And they're that bad at contested ball. And more to the point, they're bad at uncontested ball. They're not spreading from stoppage at all. Now, in the centre, it works okay. If we look at what the Swans are doing well, some of those numbers look unbelievable. Unbelievable. And it's translating right now to less than a 50% win rate. And currently, more than one spot out of the top 8. It's a disaster at the moment. Now, ironically, they could pick up Sam Naismith back in the mid-season draft, but is it fixable? That's really the question that I want to ask before I talk about Bud. Is it fixable? Yes, it's entirely between here. The Bloods culture is an amazing culture. I'm a Hawthorn fan. I'll never forget that grand final that didn't happen about a decade ago, but Hawks didn't bring home that Premiership Cup, and that was my first taste of the Bloods culture as a young fan. In 2005, I was 7. I wasn't taking Sydney as seriously back then. I was just hoping Hawthorn would win some games, and when they didn't, I was very sad. That was kind of my football introduction back then, the same as 06. So in effect, 2012 was the first real exposure to great Sydney performance, and from there, it's continued. Now, we know from that 2012 flag, they've lost the 3 grand finals, all of them convincingly. I know you're going to say, oh, that Bulldogs won in 2016. That was not that much of a blowout. Do you realise how favoured Sydney were in that game? I don't think we understand how big of an upset that is. I don't think it gets talked about enough. Now, some people are going to bitch about the umpires. That's not the point of this video. But Sydney went into that game undeniable favourites. The same as 2014, by the way, after dispatching North in that prelim final. They haven't performed. Now, normally Sydney are one of those teams that we wait and see what they do in finals after a good home and away season. But what can they do in a home and away season that is slipping away from them extremely quickly? Well, the first thing that they can do is take care of that footy. When it's in their hands, it needs to be their baby. Now, they need to slow down in their back half, and they need to get more pace on the ball in their front half. And this was shown no better than in their game against Richmond. Now, again, if you don't have your best 6 on the park, especially in the defensive side of the ball, that is going to become even more difficult. I understand that. But when you're getting the ball centre forward, which the Swans are doing, they are playing slow, predictable football, putting it on Bud's head, and Bud's kicking 3 goals. He did it against the Giants. That's a tick. They're not kicking it to anyone else. Papley did what Papley did against the Tigers. He had 25 and kicked 6. Logan McDonald needs to come to the party, and he's someone that is not being spoken about under a lot of pressure, whereas the guy taken after him in the draft, Denver Granger Barris, is because Sam Mitchell is dropping him because Hawthorn have more options at that spot. Logan McDonald did really well against the Hawks, but again, it's Hawthorn. Key defenders, they're not great. Hasn't done a whole lot since. And guys like Will Hayward, that I'm being told is underrated, does the things that don't end up on the stat sheet. You know what else is not ending up on the stat sheet for the Swans? W's. So if it's not appearing on the stat sheet right now, it is irrelevant if Sydney aren't winning games. And if you think, wow, round 7, this might be an overreaction. Is it? There is a bye in this little graphic that I'm about to show you, but that is Sydney's next 8 weeks. If you keep in mind that the Swans right now are 3-4, with those 8 games, right now, they are conclusive favourites in 3 of them. Fremantle, North Melbourne, and West Coast. So let's chalk them up. They're going to be 3 wins. Okay, cool. They're 6-4. Can they beat the Pies? I don't think that they can. Okay, 6-5. Now, can they beat St Kilda and Carlton? Let's say they go 1-1 in that. We'll keep it fair, 1-1. Alright, so we're now at 7-6. If they go 1-1 for the last 2, that's 8-7. So they go 5-3 in that stretch. They're now 8-7 with 8 games to go. They would have to go 4-4 to finish 8th. 12 wins is going to get you 8. 8th on the ladder, I should say, not 8. 12 wins is going to get you 8th on the ladder, I think. And you're going to be fighting on percentage, again, I think. 13 wins, I think, gets you in the 8. And 15, I'm pretty sure will get you 4th. Maybe not. But definitely 17 gets you in the top 4. They ain't winning 17 games. They are not winning 14 games on the trot here to get into a top 2 or 3 spot. So what does that mean right now? Right now, Sydney can't win the flag. Right now, Sydney aren't looking like bucking that trend and winning a final. And what can John Longmire do at this point? Well, what he needs to do is to draft yet another key forward, probably let Hayden McLean go, because if he's not getting a spot in this side with or without Bud, he's probably not in Sydney's future plans. So get some sort of a pick for him. It's not going to be a high one, 3rd or 4th. But they need to get another one into the draft. They need a ruckman. Peter Laddams ain't it, and Tom Hickey's injured. And they need to start again. They need a year or 2, whether that year's this year or not, but they need to start again. They need to push the reset button. They need to get everyone back as healthy as they can, of course. But the last thing that Sydney can afford to do is finish 7th or 8th in not great form, not win a final, and have not a lot happen. It would be the worst thing for them. No man's land is the worst place to be in football, and right now, Sydney are the epitome of no man's land right now. So what do you think, guys? Comment below, let me know. How do you see the Swans season so far? How do you see their next 8 weeks? And what do you think happens with Bud at the end of the year? If you want to join my Patreon like Liam and Samantha have done, which I thank them both immensely for that, you absolutely can. $5 a month gets you exclusive videos and articles, including the 5 AFL predictions from me in the preseason that are already wrong. So a piece of reflection there for dazzling is key. You can visit patreon.com/DazTalksFooty. Link is in the description, or you can type it into your browser and hook up from there. I hope you can join me over there. A video for Patreon is coming very, very soon. Enjoy your weekend, guys. I hope you have a fantastic one. I'll see you next week. Stay safe. Enjoy the footy. Goodbye.